think we're live. Let's see here. Make sure. Welcome everybody. We are live here
Nice.
today and everything this evening. Welcome everybody. I hope everybody has a great evening. Uh, Again, welcome to the House of Wise. Definitely looking forward to this discussion, but this is our first ever Kickstarter a thon. And we have two great creators here tonight with us and everything. And I'm very happy to have them in the house. But first, before we start, I'd like to emphasize, this has been a long time coming. This is our ACE initiative where we give access to indie creators, but also building community amongst the indie family and giving a little bit of exposure to these new creators and everything out there, looking to gain backers and pledges for their Kickstarter campaigns. So with that being said, I would like to open up and introduce our first creator here. I'll start with Nigel and let him introduce himself to the audience.
Hi, good night. My name is Nigel Lynch. I'm from Barbados, and I am a writer and creator, and I've been in the comic book game for about 17 years, and I've done about around 15 or so titles. I'm a big fan of indie comic books, indie storytelling, and the creation of comic books. I just really get all excited once there's a project with comic books involved. If people come to me and ask for help and that kind of stuff. This is my first Kickstarter campaign, and I'll be bringing a book called Critical Ops Task Force, which is my first book with Acre Comics. It's a book about some mercenaries. It's kind of like a tactical adventure shooter kind of story. Think of it something like a mix between the movie The Raid with Extraction, that kind of high octane kind of action pack kind of storytelling kind of story. And also it's with another book which I was working on for about a year now called The Diary of Stray Dogs, The Wounded 2. So this is a sequel to a campaign that I ran early last year on another platform. And since I had it finished, I kind of bundled it up with this campaign. And this is where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Hey, great to have you, Nigel. Great to have you. Now we have our second creator here. We have Thomas, who's also a great creator and everything of War Comics. Thomas, over to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Frederick. And I have read Nigel's books, and you definitely want to jump on that. They're amazing. He is definitely a great writer. And yeah, I had a lot of fun in my last discussion with Nigel and learned a lot from him. I'm much newer into comic books, so I've been writing for about a year. Obviously been a fan of comics my whole life, but we came out with Kingsville issue #1. We had a Kickstarter at the beginning of this year that was successful, that helped us bring forth Kingsville issue #2. We're currently working on Kingsville issue 1. We're working on issue 2 right now. It is almost complete. We're 5 pages away from being done, which is perfect because we're at the midpoint of the Kickstarter. My comic is about a nation called Kingsville. It's an island nation north of the continent where about 30 other countries are. And within those 30 countries, there's a nonprofit, unelected group called the Alliance for Global Safety. And they've been gaining a lot of power by bringing different nations together to help support one another with trade, with safety, with all that good stuff. And the Alliance for Global Safety is led by a gentleman named Dr. Derrickson. And Kingsville had a mineral on their island that AGS was purchasing from them, and they were able to utilize that mineral and turn it into a serum that provides superhumans. And now he's starting to create superhumans, and he's placing them in all the nations that partner with him. So on the outside, he's doing all these great things. These countries have a superhero in their country to help with safety and anything else that's needed. But what a lot of people don't see is Dr. Derrickson is utilizing these superhumans to do things that are unethical to help him and AGS gain more power. So issue 1 really dove into a lot of that, kind of laid the foundation. Issue 2, you're going to see some crazy stuff. We're really excited about the characters that we developed. The first 2 characters that you'll see in issue 1 is Collapse. He's a large human being, and he could collapse into a puddle of liquid, which allows him to move pretty quick, go up walls. And then once he comes back into form, you don't want his fist to be in your way because he could take your head off. And then the next character that we created is Snapback. His arms and legs could shoot forth about 15 feet and they snap back. And he has these shoulder pads. I don't know if you can see right here. And they sit on his shoulder and it's serrated. So it comes to a point. And when he's in any kind of a tussle, he takes those off and puts them on his hands like a glove. And if his arm is shooting forth toward you and snapping back, more than likely it's going right through you. So these are 2 very dangerous individuals. Snapback is actually the head of the Alliance for Global Safety super team, and Collapse is one of those members on the team. In issue 2, we reveal another 6 superhumans in 6 other nations that they are in. And yeah, you're going to love it, man. It's pretty exciting. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I had a chance to read book 1 and I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting book. And I actually look forward to book 2. I
appreciate it.
And for our audience and everything out there, if you have any questions for both of these creators and everything here, by all means, put those into the comment section. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have this evening. Again, this is supporting both of these creators in their campaigns. Both of the campaigns are live on Kickstarter. And if you will for us and you hang with us today and everything, we'll also be giving a couple of giveaways away for free, both digital and physical. And we don't know what's going to come from both of these creators and everything here. And even myself will be giving a couple things away also for our audience tonight. With that being said, if you're interested in pledging to both of their Kickstarters and everything right here, I have Thomas, his Kickstarter campaign link is posted right here on the screen. If you want to copy that down real quick, and I'll also post Nigel's link as well. And so this Kickstarter campaign here for Nigel, he's actually doing a double feature where you're getting 2 books, not just 1, but 2 books: Critical Ops Task Force and The Wounded 2. You got to get your hands on it. I read both of these books. Nigel blew me away with his story. When I read Kingsville, I was hooked. That first issue was just, oh my goodness. I'm telling you, folks, both of the campaigns right here are worthy of your backing and your support. With that being said, I like to ask I'll start with Nigel. And as I go through your campaign page and everything, I pulled it up here as well. What was your inspiration for this universe?
I think it was, I kind of created something that I wanted to read in terms of, I really enjoy science fiction. I like a kind of, not necessarily the total dystopia, but a more realistic science fiction where you can kind of, things don't always be kind of rosy in the end. So, and then I also kind of always had this kind of infatuation with mercenary type characters, or military groups, that kind of thing. I always found that kind of interesting. So when I created the universe, it was supposed to be centered around the main character from the Critical Ops Task Force, Douglas St. James. He's the main guy. And in the beginning, he was supposed to be the main character of the Diary of Stray Dogs book. And as certain events came around, that book was shelved for a little bit. And I went back to the drawing board and I actually looked at one of these side characters and started to say, well, what would her backstory be? And that's where I dived into the other character, Shani Belcourt. And because I was starting from the beginning, I started to create a backstory for her. And that's how the Wounded was born. So I still had this love to do the story for Douglas. So what I ended up doing was splitting the stories into two and have the origin of both stories, both characters coming up. So hopefully in the future, if I continue, the past will, kind of meet. I will kind of see what happens when the two factions or the two characters, which have two different personalities, actually combine. Um, so the two groups are slightly different. One group is a more tech science. Douglas is a super soldier. He has nanobots. He can heal from injury. He's more jaded. He's been doing this for a long time, so killing doesn't mean much to him. While Shani is a character that everything seems to have gone wrong in her life. So she's faced with more sorrow. She's a character from the Caribbean and she's kind of pulling herself up from the bootstraps kind of thing. And her story is a little bit more personal and it deals more of her life and surviving certain traumatic things that's kind of happened to her. So it will be very interesting to see when these two characters, their paths cross, how they will interact and what the story would be like. Um, so the universe is kind of drawn from a lot of things. Things like my favorite movie is like Elysium, and I like the whole Blomkamp feel of his kind of science fiction. The feel kind of real, that kind of almost realistic kind of feel. And then movies like Extraction. I like a lot of video games. So I kind of just poured all the things that I kind of like into this project. Um, Even some older movies, like I was telling someone about Universal Soldier, and it kind of showed my age because it was like I don't know who Universal Soldier is, and that was a very big movie when I was growing up, like in the 80s, with Van Damme and what's his name, Dolph Lundgren. So and those were the first kind of super soldiers that I kind of saw. So I kind of just pull things that I like. I'm a big fan of science fiction, and I just wanted a world that kind of embodied a lot of that.
So, can you give the audience a little bit of context to the artistic style that you selected for these both of these books? Because both of these books, artist wise, are completely different, and
Mm.
they're great in their own right. And like I said, it really drew me into both of the stories and everything. The aesthetic of both of those books and stuff are just fabulous. They're great. I enjoy both books. One is it has like a different palette, where another one is kind of you get that cyberpunk feel and everything too. It's electric, it's eccentric. Uh, it's just vibrant. The colors are just
Yeah,
popping off the
yeah, yeah,
page.
yeah.
Can you go into a little bit of that backstory for your artist standpoint?
Right. So the book is more of the cyberpunk book, which you'll be talking about would be probably the Diary of Stray Dogs book. This is more, it's more colorful, more bright. The artwork is a lot cleaner, that kind of stuff. And this was done by Juan Carlos Francisco. He's an artist out of Spain. And this book too was colored by Miriam Yasser. And she was a colorist I had to kind of pick up after I lost my main colorist to your project. Um, he was working on Magnus at a time, uh, King Bolo. He
Being
did my
still
first.
KB, my
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. So I lost him, but with everything in this business, um, every negative that you get, you sometimes could get a positive out of it. So by losing him, I actually discovered another artist, another colorist, and it's kind of good to have two good colorists in your pocket, kind of thing. And she literally kind of like pulled. She did her own style, but if you looked at the two books, they kind of meshed together. And to the average eye, they wouldn't tell that they're two different people working on the project. Um, so the Dirty Stray Dogs is more, I was just at a cleaner cyberpunk kind of feel, very European feeling. And then when I did the COTF book, I was just looking for an artist. What I tend to do is when I'm surfing on IG, Facebook, wherever, if I see an art style or I see a comic book that I like, I would usually reach out to the artist and ask them what their page rate is like, just start a conversation tell them who I am, show them some of my work. And sometimes they're busy, sometimes they may say, well, check me back in 6 months and that kind of stuff. So I kind of struck up a conversation with the artist for COTF, and his name is Francisco Mazzoli. He's from Italy. And we kind of talked, and he said, well, look, hit him up in a certain amount of time, 6 months. I was like, sure, no problem. We'll talk then. And the day he just kind of messaged me and said, hey, I'm free. You still want to do something? And we just hit it off from there. And his style is more energetic, more kinetic. You know, I was a little worried that it wouldn't resonate with certain crowds because it's not your traditional superhero comic book. But everyone I kind of showed it to just kind of fell in love with it, especially with the coloring too. The colorist, that's someone he kind of works with, and their style together just seems to be just match made in heaven. So that book, as I said, that book has this more energetic feel. It still at the same time can be very playful. It's very funny, but then at the same time it can be very gruesome and very serious. So it's a very interesting style. And for the story, what I tend to do, I tend to write the story around the artist's art. So I wouldn't tend to write the same story for any artist. I would look at your art style and see what's the strong point or what you do best, and try to write a story around the strong points to do with that, because that is very important. You know, sometimes you would see a book and you say, this is a really great artist, or this is a really good story, but the two don't mesh. You know what I mean? It's like, this would be a great story for if it was a fairy tale, or this would be a great artist on a science fiction book, but the person is doing like a Western, you know? And they say, well, if only so I find that you have to kind of find the right artist for the job, or write the right story for an artist.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, that one thing I did, and I found out early on within my development process and everything too, is I need another colorist. I can't just put everything on KB to color everything for me. And so I had to really go out there and really decide to, look at some color options, everything out there available for these books, and bring them on board and trust them for the process. Everybody's not KB, right? And you have to really trust them that they're going to do right by your project. So that brings me to Thomas, uh, your Kingsville series. Again, some of these books are rated mature, people, just so you know, and everything. They're not kid friendly. and so let me put that out there right now and everything too. Disclaimer wise, these are some mature rated books and stuff. There is some violence and everything also in the books, but the storytelling, the artwork across the board. Can you dive a little bit more into your comic book series and your universe as well?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hi, Marcus, by the way. Marcus joined. He's another good comic book creator too himself. But yeah, I'll be honest with you. If you look at the world today, right, we have the World Economic Forum, we have the World Health Organization, and I think they do amazing things. So I want to start with that. But I took the approach of what if, like from a conspiracy theorist standpoint, what if an organization like those on the outside were doing all these amazing things, but behind the scenes, they're doing these other things to gain more and more power. And that was really the premise of Kingsville. And then I built a world around that. And because I'm taking from something in our world, I purposely made up in a whole new world with new names, new countries, because what I didn't want to do is offend anybody that might be from, a certain country. And then I'm talking about them doing all these negative things behind the scenes. So I didn't want to come from that aspect. So I created Kingsville, which is fictional. I created all these other nations that were all fictional. And I did that on purpose because if you think about it, you can relate the story to maybe something that's going on in the world from a conspiracy standpoint, right? Now, I personally think that those organizations do a great job, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying anything negative about those organizations, but there is that always what if, right? They're so big, they're so powerful. What if something was going on behind the scenes? And that's really where Kingsville came from. So I had a lot of fun. One of the fun parts, but one of the difficult parts is coming up with 30 different names for 30 different nations and then capitals for all those nations. I will tell you that took longer than almost writing the comic book. You know what I mean? So I ended up taking like cities that I was raised by and using those as some of the capitals. So in California, in Northern California, we have a Clovis, and Clovis is the capital of one of the nations in Kingsville. So those type of things I did. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. And then obviously creating a bunch of different figures or characters on the super human side was a lot of fun. And, you know, if you've been a comic book reader your whole life, at some point when you were a kid, you're like, I'm going to make my own character. And at least on my side, what I normally did was just create my version of Reed Richards or my version of Incredible Hulk, right? But that was the starting point of developing your own characters. And I did pull a little bit from back there and the characters that I developed. And it was a lot of fun, man. That part I really loved. This gentleman right here that's jumping out of the plane, that is Death Day. And he is one of the newer characters that you will see be revealed in issue number 2. He is someone to be reckoned with. He has all the proudness of a ninja with superhuman strength. And he is a more serious character. Not going to be joking around and very quick to take your head off if he feels like you're going to get in his way. And you'll see there's a pretty cool fight scene. And I don't want to give away, but you're going to love that. And it's about 4 pages long. So it's going to be a lot of fun in issue 2. But he is also on the cover. One of the, you know, as we hit goals, one of the goals is this poster that I have of one of our covers that has Death Day on it. It's him walking through an alleyway and you can see a dead body that he's left behind him. You know, he's carrying out the directions that are coming from AGS. And that's what this superhuman team does. So like I said, on the outside, they're working with the prime ministers and the presidents of these nations to help keep the country safe on the outside. But they're also taking orders from Dr. Derrickson because they are AGS superhumans. And they all report to Statback, who's the leader, who getting all the direction from Dr. Derrickson. So again, outwardly, they might help an old lady walk across the street, but that night they might be executing someone that is getting in the way of Dr. Derrickson getting what he needs. So it's a lot of fun kind of playing both sides of that. And also, as they carry out these things, you'll notice that people within these nations are starting to question, like, wait a minute, you know, there was a rumor that a big guy in yellow and blue was walking out of that building after those people were killed, you know, and we all know it's collapsed, but a lot of the population are trying to put 2 and 2 together and they haven't quite figured it out, but noise is starting to come up. And that's one of the other things that Dr. Derrickson has to take care of. And normally the way he takes care of it is just wiping them off the face of the earth. That way they can't say too much. And that way they keep that kind of questioning and those kind of thoughts down. So again, to your point, Frederick, it is definitely a more mature comic book. They're like in my comic, you won't see a lot of sexual type things, but you will see a lot of blood. You'll see a lot of body parts flying everywhere. I don't know if that's better, to be quite honest, but either way, that's what my comic book is going to be like. And I'm having a blast doing it. It is so fun. Again, if you're going to create comic books, there's not a lot of money in it. In fact, I haven't made a dime yet. I've actually lost a lot more money. My wife reminds me constantly. But it's such a cool passion. I just love the industry. I get to meet amazing people like you two. So that network of indie comic creators is just a fun group of people to be around. I don't know K-pop very well, but I know Marcus very well, who's also part of that community. It's a blast meeting all these amazing people and amazing talent out there. And just to be able to say I'm part of that a little bit is quite proud moment for me, to be quite honest.
Can I ask a question? In your universe, so do the superheroes have like a public persona? Are they like celebrities, or they're secret?
Somewhat. Yeah, somewhat. So on the outside, because they've been placed in each of these nations, you'll see that probably in issue 3 and 4, we'll develop that a little bit more. I wanted to invest in issues 1 and 2 to kind of show the behind the scenes of all the crazy things that are happening before I show their public persona. because I like that better, because now when you look at them as a reader, you're going to hate them, and you're not going to understand why the public isn't seeing what you're seeing, but they can't. They don't know what's going on. But you as the reader will know what's going on. And I like that aspect, whereas in other books that have done similar things, they start off with the public persona, and then they go into from a shock value. And both, I think, are very effective. I just took the other route. But yeah, Nigel, that's a good question. And they do have a public persona. For most people, they feel like they're doing great things, and they're very grateful that these super heroes have been placed in their nation by AGS. And remember, AGS is doing this as a hook to get more nations to join them. And as they get more nations to join them, over time, they'll be indoctrinated with everything that Dr. Derrickson's doing. And you'll find that some of the nations who have been there the longest are actually right in on it as well, trying to gain more power through it. And some nations are kind of ignorant to what is going on, but they're part of AGS as a nation partner. So it's really unique. You'll have all these different perspectives from these world leaders that are giving themselves to AGS. And some know what's going on, and others are blind to it, but they eventually will.
It is interesting. This is very interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh.
It's fun.
So your artists and everything, right? And we talked a little bit about Nigel's artists and stuff as well. And so you have a lot of gore and a lot of bloody panels and everything within your artistic style, palette wise, for your series. Was that important to make sure that you found an artist that actually can capture those elements in your book?
100%. So I've met, like Nigel, right? I've been on Reddit and all the different chat rooms with comic book artists. I've been on Facebook, obviously, looking at different chat groups and groups of artists. And there's a lot of great artists out there. And I've used some of those artists to help. Like, I would give them a sketch of who my character is. I'm not a great artist, but then I would hire them to make that character come to life. And then that way, when I finally found Daniel Zay, who is our artist, I actually found him in a chat on Reddit. I saw his artwork, and I'm like, I got chills just looking at his artwork. And I said, I think that would be the perfect artist. And so I had a lot of the groundwork done from character development of how I wanted them to look, because I was working with these other artists, just paying fees to help develop each character individually. And then when I met Daniel, he was able to take those characters, do his own style with each of them. So they are a little bit different from the way they were originally drawn by these other artists. But he put his own twist on it, and I love his art. And it works really well for the story I'm taking, because you'll notice through all the pages, most of them, and his style of art is a little bit more dark. And so it's a lot of dark contrast, a lot of dark colors. But then when blood does show up, blood pops on the page because it's such a bright color. And I love that, because it puts more emphasis on what the horrific thing that just took place. And I really like that from a shock value standpoint. And I think that really works with the story that's being told. He's a very young artist. He just turned 24. He lives in Moscow, Russia. And I talk to him 2 or 3 times a week. Great young man, a great talent. I do think he's going to do a lot of great things. In fact, after issue 1, I'm noticing that it's taken a little bit longer to get pages done. So I'm happy for him, because he's gotten a lot more work after Kingsville 1 and me sharing on my platform all of his art. So I thought about not sharing anything so I don't lose him. But all joking aside, that happens, right? And so, we've talked. I have a 4-issue arc. I've asked him, if possible, if he could hang around for those first 4 issues, and then we'll go from there. But I'm very happy for him that he's getting work. The economic situation in Moscow is much different than it is here in the U.S. And my assumption is he's making pretty good money for a 24-year-old living in Moscow. And I'm very happy for him. And that's another awesome thing that we get to experience, is watching someone become successful, not necessarily someone maybe in your same community, but in a community on the other side of the world. I've worked with Brazilian artists who have done the same thing. And it's just, I don't know, it's really cool to see them have this amazing talent and then be able to find work in the U.S. while not having to come to the U.S., which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
All right, that's good.
I could kind of speak on that too in terms
Yeah,
of
Nigel,
as
yeah.
an indie creator. One of the things you're kind of faced with is how long will you have certain artists, colorists, stuff like that, because
Yeah.
of the nature of how long it takes you to gather funds between books,
Yeah.
or time frame before you start production again. And for consistency, one of the things you kind of want is consistency. So how you said, well, you're trying to see if you could lock him down for 4 books.
Yeah.
That's something that I was trying to look at. So I tried to talk to my artists and say, well, how long do you see yourself? Can we do this? So I could kind of lock down my story to fit within an arc with one artist. Because I find one of the things that's kind of jarring is when you like a book and then when you come to get the sequel the next year, it's a totally different team. The book feels different, because a lot of people don't realize that even if you give the same script to 3 different artists, they're going to bring you 3 different books
100%.
based on
Yeah.
their perception, the way their style is, the way how they see it. Some people may change it panel. Some people are going to follow the script down to the T. Some people are going to ask you a question and say, can we change this up a little bit? And everybody has a different style. So sometimes when they change artists between books, it just changes the entire style of the book.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So that's something that we as indie creators kind of are faced with a lot.
Yeah. It's scary, to be quite honest, for that reason, right? You start to build a little bit of community that enjoys your story. The story's out there. And then all of a sudden a new artist comes in. And remember, the artist is telling at least 50% of the story, if not more, because the visual has to be able to speak to the story, because we're limited by panel. We're limited by page, right? And I got this feedback too, because I did my font in the first issue a little bit bigger. So I've actually remastered it and made it a smaller font, because I didn't want to take away from the art. And so that was something that I learned, because the art is so important in telling the story. Because the impact of your words in such a small area, sometimes you can't make the impact you want. So you're really relying on the artist to be able to make that impact for you. That's why you have splash pages. That's why you have, panels overlapping other panels, right? You want to create this environment, especially on certain portions of your story, where that aggressiveness can really come forth, or that fear can really come forth, or that shock can really come forth. And the artist owns that 100%. And so I think that's so, so important. And I think, Nigel, you and I, and Frederick, obviously you too, I think we're very fortunate to have the artists that we have. I mean, I've read your comics, Nigel, and I feel like you have that relationship with your artists, and they kill it. And the story and the art match, right? And if the artist isn't kind of digging what you're trying to say, or they don't fully understand what you're trying to convey, the artist won't match what your words are trying to say. And as a reader and as a fan, when I read comics, I know immediately. And I'll be honest, where I notice it the most are in Marvel and DC books. And it's mainly because you'll have a writer who's been on a book maybe for a year or two, and now they circle to different titles all the time. So there's really no consistency in those two companies that much, more than like a year or two. And then they want to take that writer and put them on a new book to get them experience of, I think that's what they're trying to do. But artists are bouncing around constantly. That same writer in 1 year could have 3 or 4 different artists working on their book. And you could tell, especially if you're a big fan of that book, when they get a new artist, that writer and that artist haven't gelled, because it affects the story. So it's a huge fear of mine. I'm sure it is both of you gentlemen, to lose your artist in the middle of an arc that you're trying to tell a story, and then you get a new artist, and maybe you jive, but maybe their art is so different that the story isn't being told on their end the same way that your other artist was able to convey that story. And again, that's nobody's fault. That's just the nature of humanity, right? The human beings, we all process information differently, and that is expressed differently. But when you're trying to write a comic book and you have people that are engaged, they notice right away, and you could lose fans immediately because of that. And it scares me.
Guess what? that is happening to me right now. You
I
know, and kudos to Bruno Diaz and everything. He was the artist for Magnus issues 1 through 4. Bruno is a hell of an artist. I mean, he did a heck of a job on that series and everything so far.
amazing,
And
amazing.
he was the 2022 Top Cow recipient winner,
Yeah,
which is a huge achievement and everything. And I know
that's
Bruno's
awesome.
going to do some great things,
Yeah,
not only for this indie community. And,
Yeah.
you know, Marvel or DC should be happy to have him and his talent on their roster. And so if you're
100%.
listening today, Marvel, DC, you need to go grab Bruno. Shout out to Bruno right
Yeah,
now, because I was a little bit upset because, you know, losing him and everything too. And I
yeah.
was very selective on trying to figure out, okay, who can take the baton and continue the fantastic art that he has generated for this series. And I was a little bit, you know, for about a month, I was just sulking. I was sitting there like, oh my goodness, I had this great book, I have this great series, and I'm about to lose my main artist, and I have no replacement at this point in time.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
with that being said, we can make an announcement this evening. So, Bruno will be wrapping up issue 4
Yeah.
of Magnus, which will be dropping soon. Heard it again. Magnus issue 4 will be dropping soon. And come issue 5, which we start production on in November, we'll be bringing in a talented young artist,
Nice.
Walt Bonner, to take the reign and go forth and everything with this series. And I look, you know,
Wow.
forward to what he can bring to the table. We will get a sample of Walt's direction, everything that he's going to bring to the table, because he'll be doing a variant cover for
Nice.
issue 4 of Magnus. And so we're
Nice.
definitely looking forward to that and everything. And later on here in the feed tonight and everything, the live here, we'll be showcasing issues 4 cover reveal for Magnus. So stay
Nice.
tuned. And if you're watching, I highly advise you go out there and share this link with everybody and everything, because here in the next roughly about 8 minutes or so, we're going to do a live giveaway, and you don't want to miss it. But I want to go back to the campaign here. So we have Kingsville issue 2 up right now. We have 15 days to go, folks. We're at 34 backers. Hopefully during this stream tonight, we can get up to 50. That's the goal, to get up to 50, because we're gonna come back tomorrow and do the same thing tomorrow and hopefully get to 100. We need your support. This is what it's about, right? It's about supporting these creatives here who's bringing great books, great original stories, original characters to the forefront. And this will make this indie community so beautiful, because it's a diversity it's inclusive and everything across the board. It's welcoming, and we really enjoy original content. And I'll tell you, we have not one, not two, but 3 hits on our hand right here with Critical Ops Task Force, The Wounded 2, and Kingsville issue 2. You cannot miss this book. So with that being said, let's see here. Let's pull up. So we have Thomas, yours is at 1,227. Your goal is at 4,000.
Correct.
With 34 backers, 15 days to go. Hopefully we can get a refresh. I'm gonna see if we got any pledges or not tonight on the live here. Let's do a refresh. I'm gonna stop sharing this page here. Give me 1 second. And I will see if we have received any pledges during this feed tonight for any one of your campaigns. With that being said, if you have any books or if you have any copies of your books that you would like to showcase and share with the audience, to show that, you know, the covers, the actual artwork inside, I was told you, Nigel, you know, one of your books I definitely enjoy is, you know, that Wounded 2. Look at that cover. That wraparound cover is just amazing. Amazing.
It is. That's dope, man. That's so good. Yeah.
Now, Nigel, why should people back and support your project?
That's a very funny question, but because it's a good project, and you're supporting. I don't want to say starving artists, but you're supporting people who want to create comics, and they're doing it from their heart. They're doing it because, as I said, Thomas said, we're not really making any money on this. I, this is more. I always tell people, you can't make comics if you're not having fun. You have to
Yeah.
have fun doing this stuff. And
100%.
I get a lot of joy from producing books like this. There's nothing like getting back pages. There's nothing like working out problems, going through things with your editors, and all these things that may seem stressful or whatever. It's all fun. It all pays off when you get something in your hand. And this here is the biggest book I've ever done personally. I've worked on some other big titles, but this is the biggest project I've done in a single issue. Even the artist told me that when we was finished, he was like, "I've never done a book so big," and he a lot of the stuff that he did in this book is him. And when I say that, you know that when you go through the script to look for
Mhm.
stuff, to say, well, on page such and such, I see this in the comment. Let me see what did I have referenced, and then see that you didn't have anything referenced. The
Yeah.
artist is the person who created that scene, or he's the person who filled in that background, or he created these characters. So there's a synergy that has to take place between you and the artist and the creation of a book.
Yeah.
And when you get an artist that loves the project, there's nothing like it. I was talking about earlier where it was to do with almost like how do you deal with certain subject matter within books, either be it violence, be it nudity or stuff like that. Um, Almost just like something that you have to kind of feel it out with the creator and the artist, because everybody has a limit, or they have a thing that they don't tend to do. And sometimes what would happen is you will say something on a page, or you write a page, or you write a scene, and then the artist will do it, and you can kind of see, well, okay, he did it this way, so maybe this is how he would want to do this, or he's okay showing this and that kind of stuff. And as you work together, you start to realize where that limit is, or he would know, like, so he said, well, this page is going to be a bit gruesome, and I'll be like, I have no problem with it, go
Yeah.
for it, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. um So I would say the reason why to back these books is because these books are passion projects, and there's nothing like supporting a project. We want to get these books into your hands. We want to get these books out to you. I want to hear the feedback from the audience. I want to hear, there's something like, if I had to sell 100 books and nobody ever came back to me and said anything, I would rather sell 25 and have 10 people come back and talk to me and discuss the book, that kind of thing. I'm doing it for the fans. I'm doing it for the community. I'm doing it to hear the feedback, to see if they enjoyed it, that kind of stuff. So, and that's something that we as creators in this time, we take for granted. Um, there isn't a creator that you can't get a book from on Kickstarter that you can't reach out to and say, hey, I enjoyed your book, or I didn't like this page, or you made a mistake on this page, or what is the meaning of this and this. And they will, most of them will get back to you. Like 90% of them will come back to you and talk to you and say, well, this and this, you know what I mean? So we're in a situation that when I was growing up, there was, aside from the letters in the back of the comic books, there was no way for you to reach out to your favorite creator. You know what I mean? Who knows if your favorite creator was the person who was answering the letters in the back of that book? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we are in a time that the community and the creators could really touch base,
That's important. Oftentimes, when we do the campaigns and everything, people think it's always about the money. And you're right, it's passion that goes into these projects because we enjoy not only reading comic books and everything, but also we enjoy creating comic books to where we want to give, our stories and everything to a readership that want to enjoy it as well. And this is not about the money. If you're here to make money, guess what? You're probably in the wrong business, folks. You probably ain't gonna be a millionaire overnight, making comic books and everything. But I guarantee you, though, the success you get is when you walk by a coffee shop and you see your cover on that table when somebody's sipping coffee and everything, and they're reading your book, and they're
That's
they're
awesome.
smiling, they're laughing, they're just feeling something inside of them that material is resonating with them. Uh, then you are a successful writer, you are a successful creator. Your creative team is successful because they was able to make that person feel that way when they read that book. That's why we do it. We get the joy out of creating these comic books and everything because like I said, when I used to go into the store or when I would sit there and watch certain one of the cartoons and everything, you had to ask yourself this question: why did you run home after school to watch the next episode of Dragon Ball Z? What got you to that point? Because you found something that was fulfilling, something that was that made you very exciting. This is what comic books do. Comic books are exciting. There are medium and everything that actually where you can sit down, relax, unwind a little bit, and just digest into a new universe, a new story. And so both of these creators here have done a masterful job of delivering a story that will resonate with their audience. And the one thing we're trying to do right now is we're talking about the community aspect is building community. And that will help us out as creators. We do these Kickstarters and everything to be able to fund these projects because more than often than not, a lot of these projects and everything are getting funded out of pocket when it comes to indie creators. And it takes a lot of money, but a long time to produce such projects and to minimize that timeline a little bit to where you're not waiting 4, 5, 6, or even a year or 2 years. Trust me, Magnus 4 has been in the has been waiting for a little bit here. Uh, but we're trying to suppress that timeline to bring you content on a steady basis and stuff. And your support allows us to do that and everything to bring these books and everything to you on a continuous basis to where you're able to enjoy them going forward. And Kickstarter is one of the platforms that a lot of us utilize and everything as a crowdfunding site to be able to support what we do as well as our artists because we have to pay our teams, we have to pay our colors, we have to pay our artists, we have to pay our letterers across the board, we have to pay our editors. This is a creative process and it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of sacrifice. And one of the things that Nigel said it was very interesting and everything too. He brought up a great point with your artists. You know, the size of the book. Oftentimes, a lot of books and everything are roughly between 20 and 24 pages for a standard floppy. Now, Nigel, you went a little bit insane here because you're providing a 78-page graphic novel for issue 2 of The Wounded. And I was saying to myself, how could he do this? He went from issue 1, which is pretty much like a standard flop and everything, to a full-fledged graphic novel. What made you make that decision?
What made me make that decision was when I went into it, I decided that from here on out, every book I'm going to do a complete story. So I wrote the story and then I planned the pages. And what I would do, I would write out the script and see where it falls. So going into it, I knew the book was going to be about 60 pages. And going forward, I was saying, well, that's what I'll do. Whatever the story is, I'll just finish it. So it wasn't like a case where it kind of ran away from me. It was something that was kind of planned out. Because as an indie creator, one of the things that I try to do things from my perspective. One thing as good as any book is in the indie space, one of the things I kind of hate is having to wait a year for the next issue to come out. So kind of why I was saying, well, as a creator, what I would try to do is produce full, complete stories, so that when you read the book, you feel contented, you feel as though I have a good story, and then what you're waiting for next year will be another full story. There will be some connective tissue between the issues. There will be things that kind of follow through from book one to book two, but you should feel satisfied as to say, well, I read this and I could give this to somebody and bring them into the fold. This is a really good book, or you could recommend it, that kind of way. Sometimes you want to recommend a book to someone, but then to get around to try to explain to them that, yeah, the book is good, but you got to kind of wait next year for another one, or there's only two out. And, you know what I mean? So that's what I was looking at. So in my planning, I went into it knowing that I was going to produce a big book. And what I did was I kind of I wrote this book like 3 times. I wrote it the first time, didn't like it, wrote a totally different story, then went back to this one and tweaked it, and till I was like comfortable, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want. And so it was something, I said, it was something that was done in the planning stages. And at the same time too, I had to kind of look at the page count, not to get too big, because as indies, we know that every page is a cost. But then there's also points where you know that you have to add a page or two, because it doesn't make sense going this big and then cheaping out and not doing 2 pages that would actually make the book read a lot better. So it's all about those kind of decisions that you have to kind of make.
That's good. It's a lot of decision that we have to make in this process when it comes to, do we keep that page in the book? Do we create a splash page for that page instead and everything? And that's the beauty of development and producing and creating. Thomas, I have a question for you. I love that shirt right there, Spun and everything. I'm a huge Spun fan myself. Awesome, Tom McFarlane, I love it. But with your book and everything, right? Because you say you already have, it was like 4 issues in this arc, correct?
Correct.
When did you make the decision it was going to be 4 issues? And you
I
close
made
it out there.
Yeah, I made it early on for a couple reasons. One, I wanted finality to a certain extent to be there for the reader. Always, you're like, I have a story that could go 100 issues, and I want to be that one comic creator that has issue number 100 in a few years, and that would be really exciting. I think as a new creator coming into the indie scene, we have to be super practical. You have to build an audience. That audience has to like what you're doing, so they come back for the next issue and the next issue after that. But they also want to see some sort of a completion, not necessarily with your comic, but with certain stories, so they can move on to the next story and expect, right, some new excitement and maybe a change of pace, maybe from a different vantage point or a viewpoint. I thought that was, on one side, was really important. On the practical side, I'm working really hard to make this the best comic book I could possibly make it. But what if it doesn't work? I want to give myself a commitment to 4 issues and see where fans are after that. If fans don't like it, then I could check that off my list as a huge comic book fan and say I was able to produce my own comic book and I had a blast doing it. I met amazing people, and that's okay too, right? So I wanted to pace myself at the very beginning and be very practical, but also give myself a goal. And that goal was to have 4 issues that were completed, and let's see what people say. And if they want more, then I have more of a story to tell. It gets crazier and wilder the more I go. But I also wanted to be very practical. This is my first forte into comics as a creator, and I wanted to be very practical about that.
Great discussion, gentlemen. Hey, look, we probably going to table the giveaways for tomorrow's segment, because this is segment number 1. Yeah. And we want to make sure we give this advertising out a little bit more, because people are a little bit busy going into the weekend and everything. I think Saturday will be a great day to get
Yeah.
more people on. However, though, and we continue to push this link and everything out. So if you're watching tonight, do us a favor and everything. Share that link to this live stream, because tomorrow we'll be coming back as well, back with our same creators and everything here, and pushing forth for not only getting more backers and pledges to this campaign, but both of these campaigns, both of these amazing campaigns at that. There are some great books on deck right now here on Kickstarter. And my goal going forward also is to make sure we do more of these live streams where we have projects, we have books that we wanted to pretty much showcase and shine a spotlight on these creators to where people can actually see what they're bringing to the forefront and build a following for them, for their readership and everything. And so we continue to do this, whatnot, going across the board. That's our goal here at Wise Acre Comics House of Wise, is to be a platform for these creators to come on here, be able to discuss their books and also showcase their works and everything, but also have dialogue about this indie community. Because I'm not sure if you're tracking Nigel. Yeah, I'm not sure if Nigel told you where he's at right now and why this is important, streaming everything for people to watch and whatnot. Because this is worldwide. YouTube is a worldwide platform. StreamYard is a worldwide platform. Nigel, if you can you get the audience a little bit of context of where you at right now, where you're from?
Oh, I'm from Barbados. It's an island in the Caribbean. Um, and as you said, because of the way how the world is today, these different platforms and different things, it means that as a creator, I can reach out and I can tell my story no matter where I'm from. And as you said, tell it to the whole world. And also, I have the ability to collaborate with people from all over the world. And that's something that is very interesting. It's also very tricky dealing with people in different time zones. People, but you build friendships, you learn about customs, you learn about different holidays, you learn about different things. And it's all that cultural exchange. I like to talk to my creators. So I talk with my colorist. She's from Egypt, and I learned a whole bunch of stuff from her and stuff about her religion and the different holidays and the different stuff. It's just interesting. And the artist, he's from Spain, and we talk. Yes, we talk about movies, we share clips, we talk about different things, and we just usually kind of just, even when, well, say like our off period, we just usually just kind of check in with each other and just say, hey, how are you doing? Everything good? That kind of stuff. So you can build friendships with people from all over the world. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of the internet. And if I wasn't creating comics, there's no way I would know any of you guys. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
That's true. That's very true. And Tom has his own channel that he runs at World War Comics, and it's a great channel. If you don't see all of the figurines and everything back there, I watch that channel just for the figurines and stuff. When he does a lot of his showcases and stuff. Also, he goes to a lot of stores like Target and Walmart and everything too, to search out figurines. So we're talking about a close-knit family. This is how we support each other. We support each other through a variety of means. And you're right, Nigel. We have met a collective of people within this indie community, from artists, from creators, from colorists, from writers, across the board, even letters and everything too, and editors. And you get to know these individuals on a professional and personal basis and everything. So when the holidays come up, I always send a Merry Christmas to the team and everything too, across the board. They send me their greetings and everything as well. And one thing I loved about Bruno, because Bruno was a huge X-Men fan, and I was a huge X-Men fan. And so, learning that about him, I felt very comfortable with bringing him onto the project and everything. And I know we're getting ready to go an hour here, and I know it's already late, and everybody time zone and everything too, because I'm over here in Korea, and you're late at night, it's evening time, everything, whatever with you, and it's getting dark and whatnot. But I would be amiss to, because I said that I was going to show issue 4 cover.
Yeah,
And I
let's
know
see
Tony's
that
a
bad boy.
huge fan. I know
Yeah,
Tony's a
big
huge fan of Magnus and everything.
time.
And this has been a long time coming. This has been a long time coming. And one of the surprises that I said too is for interviews that have backed the campaign for Nigel. And I will also do this also for Tom's campaign as well for the next live feed. And if we get to, by this weekend, we get to 50 or between 50 to 75 backers for both campaigns. I'm going to show not only just the cover right now, but tomorrow you would get a first teaser look and everything of Magnus issue 4 in full color.
Nice.
I will only do it if we get to between 50 to 75 backers to make that happen. So that means for all of our viewers and everything out there, you need to share this link for tomorrow's show because it's going to be epic. And when you see this cover, you will know why we're very excited about Magnus issue 4 and its future and everything too. So without further ado, we'll do our presenting everything here.
I need like a drum roll or something.
All right, folks, this is Magnus issue 4. This is the cover for Magnus issue 4.
Oh, goodness,
this cover was produced and created by my esteemed artist who did Crisis also, Rum Silva, who did a hell of a job and everything on this cover. This is the first look for Magnus issue 4. And there's a theme here, as you see everything. We have introduced a couple more characters. This is going to be a family-centric family affair for this issue and this story. And created by myself, written by Devin R. Scott. Bruno did a hell of a job and everything on the colors, inks, with the inks and the pencils, and KB King Bowler. We stole from Nigel. Yes, Nigel, I'm sorry about that.
His colorist and wow, man, Frederick. Nigel, you gotta be taking notes, my friend.
We brought King and everything in.
That's awesome.
It's an interesting story and everything because I ran through my feeds and I saw this color palette and I was like, man, this color is awesome. Like, who is this guy? Awesome. Why? It was just on Facebook. And I was just going through my feeds and everything. And I was like, and I didn't know at the time that he was Nigel's colorist until I read The Diary of the Stray Dogs, The Wounded One. And I was like, I looked at the credits and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna steal Nigel's colors and whatnot because I'm like, well, he's gonna make some more money. At the end of the day, he got two creators here. He can work with it everything too at the same time. But King Boulder did the colors and everything on this book as well, and the colors are just fantastic. When I did a concept for this book cover and everything right here, I remember I covered everything from that had Thanos kind of like in the background, the backdrop. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I need Anique to have a menacing background look without him being, so in the forefront of everything. And I tell you when I did a layout for this cover and gave it to Rum, I say, Rum, this is the layout. This is what I'm on. This is what I want and whatnot. I need some cosmic flair and everything in here, but I want the family to be at the forefront of it. And with Magnus and Michaela, and Michaela is one of the newest characters and everything that we're introducing in issue 4. So she's gonna get a little bit more story elements and everything too. But you will see them, a whole new level when you talk about from the Orishas in issue 4 as well. And so we're very pleased and very proud to make this announcement and everything. Magnus will be dropping here soon. And we're looking forward to getting this book in everybody's hands. But before that happens, though, you need to get your hands on both Critical Ops Task Force as well as The Wounded 2. And also, you need to make sure you pick up Kingsville. You would not regret any of those books whatsoever. Those books are standout books, great reads, and these arcs and everything for these stories within indie comics, it was a must have, is a must read. And with your support on both Kickstarter and through following them on their social media accounts and everything from X, from Twitter, not Twitter, but Facebook, from Instagram, or even TikTok and everything. I know we get used to Twitter not being there anymore, right?
Yeah, I still call it Twitter, man.
I don't know. My thing right here has a little bird and everything on there still.
Yeah.
But with all of these platforms that we have available to us and everything, it's building a community, a readership of people that enjoy indie comics. I can tell you right now, indie comics is not going anywhere. It will always be here because there will always be an audience that enjoys reading books. Gentlemen, I appreciate this. Has been a great conversation. I'm definitely going to post this not on YouTube, but also across social media and everything too.
Yeah.
People really need to hear not only your stories, but this great dialogue that you have offered this community on various different topics. And we need to do this often. I would love to have you on again as I continue to ramp up this page and everything. I'm kind of getting out of the creative mode in a way, but also trying to find ways to build the platform out, but also showcase not only these creators, everything like yourself, of what you bring to the forefront. Because I tell you, when I back a Kickstarter, I'm very selective on what I back and who I support and everything. To the same time, because I look and see what really grasps me from the onset. And both of your books and everything have grabbed hold of me, and have I'm going to continue to be a supporter and backer from until you finish creating these books and stuff. All right, so that's a guarantee. With that being said, though, we will be back the same time tomorrow at this same time live on this channel here, the House of Wise. And if you can, give us a follow at Wise Acre Comics, or again, you can follow World War Comics. You can also follow Nigel Lynch on their social media accounts as well. And I guarantee you will find something very grateful and everything when it comes to their artwork they're posting, the books and everything they're posting, the pages across the board. And then we go live on Instagram, and I'll probably jump on live here shortly and everything to kind of catch the West Coast audience for a couple of promos, everything as well. Trust me, we do a lot of lives, everything on there. There's great conversation across the board. And you can always catch Thomas and everything at Walmart or Target. Grab one of those figurines, everything. Spun, the whole 9 yards and everything.
Yeah.
That you see in his background right there as he does the open. But he also do, when he Kickstarter campaigns come to it, deliver and fulfillments and stuff come to this house, he also does, live openings and everything too, where he showcases the books that he received from that he has pledged and everything, and supported these indie creators as well. So this again is a great opportunity, everything to be a part of this community, and we look forward to having you and seeing you tomorrow as we do some giveaways. Trust me, I might be giving away a figurine. You just don't know. You might want to make sure you come and join us and everything. Any parting words from both of yourself, Tom and Nigel?
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. And as I said, I try to enjoy even this campaign. This is the first Kickstarter I've done, and I'm learning a lot, and it has been very interesting. So hopefully for my second campaign, it'll be a little easier. I'll probably take some of the knowledge that I've learned, some of the fans, and some of the connections, and move on to bigger and better things in the next campaign. So I just try to take everything in this whole comic book creation thing as in a learning experience. So that's it. And to the people who have backed, thank you very much. And if you could share to anybody who you think would be interested in any of these projects. And give me any feedback if you have backed any of my projects before.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, anything. And give me a follow. Thanks.
Yeah. And likewise, I would just say thank you. First, thank you, Frederick, for allowing me to be part of you and Nigel tonight to be able to kind of share Kickstarters and what we're doing. I really appreciate your support. And then obviously anybody that supported me in the past, supported me now. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Without you, it's very difficult to get this done. The way I look at Kickstarter, I have my local comic book store. That's where I get my big 2 and image. And then I have Kickstarter, which is local comic book store number 2 for me. And so I find myself going through those. So this isn't a donation that you're making. You're getting high quality products in return. And it's even a better deal because many times you're getting little freebies with that too. So it is an amazing way. Exactly. It is an amazing way to get a high quality independent comic book that doesn't have to stick to 80 years worth of canon. You'll get unique stories and fun stories. You'll get scary stories, all these different things. And you'll be backing a creator that could bring that kind of story to you time after and time again. So yeah, Kickstarter is comic book store number 2. Get on there, help support us, bring these awesome comics to you. Yeah, let's keep this thing going.
All right, gentlemen. Hopefully we see you tomorrow and everything. We'll be going live again at the same time. I wish everybody a blessed evening and night. With that being said, this is the House of Wise signing out.